Hello, friends. This is John Klein III with episode 182 of Shadow and Flame of Magic, your premier Kitty Pryde Lockheed and Magic podcast. And today we're going to review Champions Volume 225 in honor of our Ironheart month, and then the comics of last week. So let's get into it. So, Champions Volume 2, Issue 25. We finally get some actual Ironheart content here. This comic came out in December 2018. It would have cost you $4.99, probably because it's an anniversary issue. And it was rated T plus because the world still needs heroes, champions. When society became disillusioned with its heroes, the next generation made a vow to do better, to make a difference, to change the world. They are the champions. Miss Marvel, Spider-Man, the Miles Morales one, Nova, the Sam Alexander one, Braun, Vision, which I guess Vision's family just call themselves the Vision. Well, yeah, because I guess that miniseries by Tom King was just called The Visions, right? But does that make him Vision? I bet they addressed it there. Ironheart, Snow Guard, and Wasp. And there's a bunch of fun house ads I'll point out as we go along with this. The champions traveled to Africa to investigate a contaminated water source and found themselves under attack by the mysterious Man-Thing. Most of the champions managed to escape unscathed, but Wasp and the powerless Sam Alexander were dragged through a portal to parts unknown. Can the champions track down their missing teammates? Are they lost forever? Writer Jim Zub, artist Sean Zaski and Max Dunbar, color artists Marcio Menez and Nolan Woodward, who I'm currently loving on Exceptional X-Men. Letter and production by VC's Clayton Cowles. And this is Warriors of the Weird Part 1. Inside cover ad is for Uncanny X-Men #1, the supersized first issue, disassembled by Ed Brisson and Kelly Thompson and Matthew Rosenberg. This would be the team that will eventually go into the Age of X-Men. And so Ironheart wakes. That's. I was like, there's literally a thought I was having. You can follow along on my TikTok and YouTube channels at Jacko SII. Notably, I bought this for a reference to Ilyana that I didn't even know there was one until literally going through all of Ironheart's appearances and discovering this issue. And I was like, well, this is fun. So, or at least I hope so. The one page was fun. And um, so Ironheart wakes up from a nightmare of Thanos choking her. There's an unknown narrator who's like, I know how these things go. When you've been around as long as I have, you start to see all the patterns. You understand how people tick. And Ironheart wakes up with a green dog talking to her, which Viv names Sparky, which I don't know if it's her dog or not. I imagine it's a Doctor Strange dog, if I remember correctly. And he's sniffing around. He's like, woof. Oh, no, no. He must be a Vision dog because his wolf is in the yellow Vision dialogue balloon. It's all right, Sparky. It was just a bad dream. Human beings, as a general rule, are quite easy to read, and so catch up with Miss Marvel, updating Nova's mother about how he's missing, and she's used to it because he takes very long, trips to space, but he always checks back in and always makes it back. And Ironheart gets the update as well that things are not going well. Miss Marvel's taking the loss pretty hard. And I would love to get more Miss Marvel comics as well, and I got a whole list ready to go on eBay and start chipping away. Hopefully, come September or October, ideally. I have a whole plan on how to to start chipping away at back issues. They gather in groups to share their experience because they need constant reassurance that their actions are justified. And then Viv shows up and is like, is Sparky being a nuisance? No, he's cool. I have been following up on the mystical contacts who might help us in our search for Nadia and Sam. Oh yeah, like Doctor Strange and stuff? Exactly like that. Unfortunately, Doctor Strange is not currently on Earth. Doctor Voodoo and the Scarlet Witch are helping Quicksilver recover from being trapped outside of time. Wiccan is out of the country on a trip with his boyfriend. Talisman is fasting in preparation for a ritual and cannot be disturbed. Ileana Rasputina is not returning my calls. And Ironheart's like, so in other words, what you're trying to say is we're on our own. Correct. And literally that's all it takes for me to buy a comic. Like buy and I made a oh no, I haven't posted it yet. On Blue Sky I posted the comics, but on Wednesday, um you can look forward to a comic another video of comics I bought at Night, the Hobby Lobby not Hobby Lobby. The hobby store here in town that's selling comics that the owner was telling me they update weekly now, which I'm like, all right. No, it didn't look updated to me from like months ago when I checked, but I finally was like, you know what? I got a little bit of cash. Let's go. Though they do try to charge like what comics are relatively what they're worth as opposed to the Golden Girls antique store where sells all of his comics for $1. But I've pretty much exhausted that store. And so I was like, well, let me look over here and then maybe I can check once a month, like after my second payday, I'm imagining, of the month. And then I can, just maintain like, all right, there's nothing new here. And then figure out, then it's not such a waste of time. But, so yeah, so I don't know, just have an itch for buying, back issues and getting it, done. And then let me re-familiarize myself with this. Oh yeah, so Snow Guard is trying to contact her source of her powers to get a feel for what's going on, and Braun's supervising it. And she figures out that Man-Thing's responsible for all this. And her source of her powers gives her the Siege Parallel, which us X-Men fans will immediately remember the Siege Perilous, that, opens up a with a siege, and then you go through a transformation and come out the better for it. And she warns everyone there's dangers, and Miss Marvel's quick to say, yeah, we recognize that, but we're heroes, and they would do the same for us, so we are, as her Uncle Mario would say, let's a go. Viv tells Sparky that if they're not back in 48 hours to notify father, so always good to have a contingency plan. That's how I know the rest of you will find a way to get here and join your friends. You're smart, capable, inventive, and obnoxiously idealistic. The perfect mix of power and purity I can use to my advantage. And then Ironheart wakes up. She's in a cool new steampunk armor, but she has her full memories, which is going to be different from her companions or her champions, if you will. There's a fun little half ad here for Wolverine, Gentle Giant Ltd. statue company that made four different Wolverines: Wolverine 80s in his brown suit, 74 in his Incredible Hulk first appearance, 2008 Old Man Logan, and then 92 the classic Jim Lee design. Well, no, not Jim Lee design, but 92 makes me think the X-Men cartoon. But that classic yellow and blue outfit. And Ironheart dramatic page flip. And there's a bunch of these mouse guards, but not the mouse guard from that video game. And no, that's a comic book series, right? But there is a mouse guard like game. I want to say so, right? Or something like that. And so she's dodging them. She grabs her mace that she recognizes must be hers, and then swats at them, and they run away. But not all of them do. But the shadow spider shows up and throws a bunch of daggers instead of webs, and that makes them run away. And she recognizes him as Miles because obviously. It's a pretty cool design, though. I wonder if Spider-Man 2 for the PS4 5 will have this costume because it's worthy of an adaptation. And one day it'd be nice to have a PS5. Bugs me so much we don't have one, but they're expensive and, times are tight. And I want to play Spider-Man 2 and Marvel Rivals. I feel like there's a third PS5 game I want, but that'll be pretty much the ones I want to play immediately. And so she's Ironheart's just trying to figure out why well, she and I do love a modern day comic who's like, let's not spend 6 pages trying to convince them that they're best friends. Like she's like, all right, you don't know who I am, let's move on. She even references the champions. He doesn't know who that is. Yeah. Then we catch up to Braun, who looks like a ghoul, and he's having to do physical labor, which he doesn't love doing, but he's making himself a cool axe. And then Snowguard shows up in a bear motif. So I don't know if she's related to Snowbird or not, but similar scale. And so Braun and Snowguard team up. Um, there's an ad here for Have you ever wondered what if? And this is where we get the Leah Willems What If Magic. But there was other ones that came out, including What If X-Men, as in .exe /men. What if Thor was raised by King Lothi of the Snow people? What if Ghost Rider counters a metal band from the real world? Like, all right. What if Flash Thompson was Spider-Man? And what if Peter Parker was the Punisher, but I guess he was bit by a spider at first because he has Spider-Man gloves and mask, but a Punisher shirt, so like sure. Imagine that depth is very much involving you know, his Uncle Ben. And the Snowguard does turn back to Snowguard, and we see two man things. They do appear to be giant. And Braun reveals his name is Braun Hammer. And Miss Marvel reveals her name is Mystic Marvel, which I sort of like how it has the same sounds of Miss Marvel, Mystic Marvel. And we see Nadia Wasp is spying on them. And the narrator continues, I know you'll find your way here soon enough, and that's what I've been planning ahead. Seeing the patterns, reading the emotions, gathering new allies. And we see this is an older gentleman with a moon, crescent moon on his chest. His tunic is greenish or reddish with like smiley crescents going down to his belt of a sad face. And he has a cool green cape, so that's fun. And then there's a crystal warrior, Stalax of the Crystalium, and he has to fight a mysterious knight. Um, and then the knight wins. I thought Earth would be my ultimate conquest, but I was wrong. Fate has brought me somewhere new, and the challenges here excite me more than I've faced in centuries. And before this, I should have said Miles updates Ironheart that they're in the Weird World, so that's where this is explaining, which I don't really know Weird World that much. If I had read that Battle World, Weird World, I'll probably know a little bit more about it. But I think it's adjacent to Otherworld, perhaps. I don't know. This is where I meant to be. And then the knight takes off his helmet, and it turns out it is Nova Sam. I shall become the master of Real World. And so, and then actually the mage that Nadia updates is, I guess, pals to this new armored knight guy. So yeah, a lot of mystery here. And then there's also an house ad for X-Men Black that gives us Leah Willems, Emma Frost, but also Chris Claremont's Magneto, Scott Ackerman's Mojo, Sheenan McGuire's Mystique. Ugh, I'm doing that thing where you only read the author. So it's Chris Claremont and Dalibor Talgic's Magneto, which I haven't heard much of. Mojo by Scott Otterman and Nick Bradshaw. I want to say has a reference to Magic or Kitty in it. Sheenan McGuire and Marco Falia's Mystique. Robbie Thompson and Sean Christo's Juggernaut. And Leah Willems and Chris Bacalo, Emma Frost. That also has a reference to Kitty or Magic in it. I know it's on my backlist of things. Next issue, pretty cool real world cover. I imagine if you put all these together, it makes a pretty cool image of the team. Oh yeah, yeah, because you see Braun Hammer's hammer. But yeah, I assume they make it free. And then there's a back cover ad for Eve L. Ewing and Kevin Liberman's Riri Williams, Ironheart #1. Soars into her own ongoing series. And I want to say I read the first several issues of this, and because I think there's a villain called Tank that shows up that people are like, oh, maybe this is Ewing's Tank because she's writing exceptional and Tank is in X-Force, but it was not necessary to read that. The back cover ad is for Marvel Strike Force, a game that is fun if you've been playing it, but I pretty much got myself to just playing it once I woke up and once right before bed, and then the hour changed, and then I was like, I'm not staying up to midnight to play this game, and it wasn't that fun to play once a day, and it wasn't really that much fun to play twice a day, nor rewarding, and so I finally cleansed myself of it. But yeah, and apparently I bought this from my comic shop. Well, no, not apparently. I knew I bought this from eBay. My comic shop on eBay is the way I'm going to try to buy my back issues. They seem reasonable. Hashtag not a sponsor. But apparently I bought a fine copy, and I didn't know that until I read this label because, I want to say it was a cover price too, so pretty great. Well, that was Miss Earth Champions Volume 2, 25. And on the podcast, the show shows SNWFM. I'm going to post the cover and the one page of the magic reference. And the whole page is for uh context. And which would be on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. So let's get into the books of last week. So spoilers. Spoilers. So Psylocke 8, which the September solicitations tank came out, and Psylocke is done at 11, I believe is the number knowing fans have noticed. So that title ends in August then. She is trying to team up for her childhood friend that she was training with and makes it, and it's a pretty great thing. Meanwhile, Grey Crow and that tech gal team up with Shinobi Shaw to try to find out where Psylocke would have even gone. And then throughout the issue, we're getting flashbacks of her childhood friend and her training. And it's like, all right, this comic is very well paced. And Psylocke is oftentimes my top three X titles. And it's a real shame the series is coming to an end. But at least she got a great run. X-Men 18, which I was tempted to make the headline comic, but I was like, there's not really much going on. Ryer, who we get a footnote is an Alpha Flight villain, which I came across at X Factor, like around the 120s issue, that I was like, hey, Wire, is that the guy? And it was the guy. So I was like, all right, so he's not just a brand new character that Jed McKay just dusted off. And he breaks into the factory to offer Hank McCoy a seat at the 3K table. And at first, he agrees to do it because he thought they were going to torture that um, shape shifting, animal shifting lady. But Wire's like, no, no, it's not a threat. You come if you want to, which seems early to be tempting this beast with a villain turn, but also like it's beast. Like he's going to turn villain again eventually. Might as well do it now. Magic barely does anything after Cyclops takes out the 3K X-Men team, which once again, if you want to become an X-Men team, just pick an adjective or a color, which yes, I recognize colors are adjectives, and then just call yourself the X-Men and then you're done. That you don't need Scott's permission. And he's not going to stop you. Like he might show up and try to stop you, but you take your beating and he comes to your new um extraordinary team, and then boom, you're there. So Magic's there to witness Scott's awesome leadership. Um, Billy's sister confronts her mother, and the mother says she was giving her a name, and it broke her heart when the doctor told her that her twins was just going to be one girl. And now I'm forgetting what her name is. It's like April or something. But this hearing that she actually had a name turns her good. And so she forgives her mother. Cassandra Nova mentioned, oh, and then Billy pops up, and Cassandra Nova, someone goes like, but you're still mad at her, right? And she is, which I'm like, you're quick to forgive your mother. You think you'll forgive your sister, who also didn't know you existed. But I guess sisters are complicated. My sister and I are not that complicated, but maybe that's the brother sister dynamic. I don't know. I'm sure we'll learn more about it. Was there a fourth plot? I feel like that was it. Anyways, the September solicitations imply that there's a big event in October, and so like Magic's double shipping in September as well. And so it's like, are all these series is ending right before a big series? Like soft reboot of the X line? I don't know. People are even saying Exceptional X-Men might be ending, which I'm like, oh man. Like now I'm using DCBS. Hashtag also not a sponsor. But would love a sponsorship. Um, I don't know, it just seems weird to in titles. And Magic's like often in the top 10 or top 20 of the month, like holding its own against the Ultimate line and the Absolute line from DC. So you would think Magic could be safe, but I don't know what's going on. I don't run the X office. What else came out? Oh, Emma Frost White Queen 1, which turns out it's not an origin retelling, but it's actually a early Hellfire Club story. And she references smelling brimstone, and then Nightcrawler shows up in the other X-Men. I forget what issue number, but it's clearly pre, 138 when Kitty Pryde joins the team. So, um, which I don't know when that will take place because literally they fight the Hellfire Club in the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga, and then Kitty shows up right at the end of it. So it's like, when does this take place? But maybe she's at home, but they never reference her. Anyways, but fun story. Sage is there as Tessa, and there's a mole in the Hellfire Club. Oh, and they're in a different country too, which I was like, oh, okay. Which I don't know if there was a plan to make all these new characters show up later. And I think it'd be easy enough to explain, like, oh yeah, the Hellfire Club of this country, which was it Barcelona, perhaps? And so yeah, well, maybe they just are content in Barcelona. There was no hero to Barcelona to thwart them, so they just thrive. So that sort of works. Hume's Division 4. Karma's barely in this. She was locked up, and then, which Karma's barely in any of these, but she gets like three panels or so. Like she shows up on 3 pages, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty much what she's going for. Um, and White Fox is trying to go after Sunfire still, and um, and this is the penultimate issue, so I don't know. I don't think I'm following any Tiger Division titles after this though. And lastly, Aliens versus Avengers 4. Um, the X-Men showed up. It was Emma Frost, Logan, and Armor helping the Avengers. It was very much heavy on the Avengers, but the three of them stand up, and I'm like, if we're going to have a final three X-Men, those three seem pretty solid. So, I don't know. If it's in a trade, I'll probably be like, if you like Aliens and the Avengers and three X-Men, might as well buy it, but seemed pretty missable to me. And so, yeah, that is the titles of last week. And then this week is a smaller batch, but I'm on board for most of them. The Giant Size Age of Apocalypse. Oh wait, I was going to do this in order of my excitement. So Wolverine and Kitty Pryde 3, where we continue the sequel to Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. Very clever. On my YouTube channel, I made a Father's Day um video of Butterfly Bob Carlyle's Butterfly Kisses because I couldn't think of any other father and daughter song. Sort of forgetting all the Christian subtext of it, where they're clearly a Jewish family, but The lyrics can put like match with the video pretty well, but you can see the video on my YouTube channel from what, 2 Sundays ago. Then second place is Uncanny X-Men 16, the conclusion to the Dark Artery, which hopefully we find out more about Ember, right? And Colicchio. The number three is Giant Size Age of Apocalypse, which is supposed to take place the night of before Age of Apocalypse Omega, so Shadow Cat should be there. And then lastly, Spider-Man Wolverine 2, where I guess they're fighting Mysterio and they're making them fight the Russian guy villains, which I thought was fun in the first issue. But that, everyone's episode 182. Thank you so much for listening or watching on YouTube, and I will talk at you next week. All right, everyone, bye.